This is my life in South Florida. I've officially been here for 6 months now, and I am so happy here. The sun is always shining, it's always beautiful weather. I found a new love for the beach, being outdoors more just in general, and spending time with friends and family. Not to mention, the food is pretty amazing. But what if I told you it's not exactly a paradise?
South Florida is not cheap, okay? Nobody was wearing masks here. Florida feels like an alternate universe. I don't know how else to explain it.
Wait a damn minute.
But regardless of all of this, I still think that
if you want to move somewhere and you're afraid, just do it. I'm telling you, it can change your life. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany if you are new here, and on this channel I talk about literally anything, mostly lifestyle stuff. I do vlogs occasionally. I recently, well, not so recently, moved to South Florida from New York City, and so I thought today I would sit down and talk to you guys about the things I wish I knew before moving here. But before we jump into the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to see my face again. The algorithm here on this platform is really weird, and it really likes when you comment and you hit the like button so it can push this video to other people that may see it and be interested in it. I don't know how long this video is gonna get, so go ahead, get a snack, and let's get into it. Yeah, so I've lived in New York City for like the majority of my life, and I moved to South Florida so that I could focus on my candle business. Shameless plug. The spring collection will be out very soon. This is the Bali candle and it smells divine. I just had to do that one time. I won't do it again. But I moved to Florida for that reason. I am lucky enough to have family that lives here. My sisters all live here. My dad lives here. So I am very familiar with Florida, and I just always had a really big disdain for it. I don't know. I'm not going to get into why. But I just never really liked Florida. I always am a New Yorker at heart. So the idea that I would go and move to Florida in my mid-20s, if you had told me that when I was younger, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. I'm here. We're in Florida. We're doing it big, specifically in South Florida. I'm not in like, you know, Orlando or Tampa. This is going to be specific to South Florida. But I think that the things I'm going to say will probably apply to most of Florida in general. So keep that in mind. Before I start off on the things I wish I knew, I want to make it very clear that I do really like living in Florida, because I feel like I'm about to say a bunch of negative stuff, and it's not all negative. I really like it here. There's so many positives. I'm so glad I came here. I wish I came here sooner. So I want you to keep that in mind when I start talking about the things that I wish I knew, because I don't want it to seem like I hate it here, because that's far from it. So the very first thing that I wish before moving to Florida, South Florida specifically, is that it's just as expensive as New York. Okay, it's not as expensive, but it's just as expensive. Does that make sense? Okay, like let me clarify, because I feel like y'all gonna come for me in the comments for this. If you want to live a certain lifestyle in Florida, you have to live in certain areas. I didn't realize how much I love the beach. That's something that I learned while living here. And I wish that I lived closer to the beach, because the nearest beach for me is about 20, 25, 30-minute drive. And I wish that I lived maybe 5 or 10 minutes from the beach. But guess what? I wouldn't have the apartment that I have, the space that I have, for the price that I have it at if I lived at the beach. And that's just something you have to keep in mind. If you want to live in a certain lifestyle in a specific area, you gotta have the funds. Miami ain't cheap, okay? South Florida is not cheap at all. Just because you're coming from New York City, which is a really, really expensive place, or if you're coming from LA or any other city, doesn't mean that we're gonna just come to Florida and it's gonna be, everything will be half the price. That's not true at all. The rents have skyrocketed, especially now that the pandemic is, you know, getting a little bit more manageable. That's another thing I'm gonna bring up, but not yet. But that's one of the reasons why the rent has skyrocketed. During the pandemic, a lot of people left their bigger cities and moved to places like Florida where the rent was cheaper. And now that that happened, the rents have like risen, do you know? Risen? Is that a, they have rose? They rose. I'm sorry. Risen. Risen is a word, but I'm sorry. Anyway, The rent has skyrocketed back up to, you know, almost New York prices if you think about it. Because if you want to get a place in Miami, I don't really know how much it'll cost, but it'll cost you a little penny to get a nice little place. The only thing is you get nice weather in exchange. So it's kind of like pick your poison. Yeah. South Florida is not cheap, okay? Groceries are not cheap. You have to really just find alternatives that work best for you. When I first started coming here, the closest grocery store to me was Publix, so that was my go-to. But then I quickly learned that Publix is more expensive than the other grocery stores here. Now I shop at Aldi's, I go to Walmart, I go to Trader Joe's. I do a mixture, right? So just have a really good understanding that just because you're moving from a super expensive place to come to Florida doesn't mean that it is just dirt cheap over here. You don't think you're just gonna come down here and it's gonna be hunky-dory, everything's gonna be sunshine and roses. It is just as expensive. It's expensive to go out, it's expensive to club, it's expensive to do these things. So just keep that in mind. Okay, the next thing I wish I knew, well, this is not something I didn't know. I think I knew about this, I just didn't know how I was going to react to it. And that is driving. Okay, from a perspective of a New Yorker, in New York, I had a car. I unfortunately lost my car because someone ran a stop sign and like crashed into my car and totaled it. So I had a period of time where I did not have a car. I think over a year I didn't have a car at all. So I really just relied on the public transportation system, you know, the metro, the buses, not really the buses. I don't like buses, but Ubers, Lyfts, just walking. That was literally how I got from A to B. But in Florida, the main mode of transportation is by car, and unfortunately for me, I have major car anxiety. I have driving anxiety. I don't like driving on the freeway. I don't like driving at all, really. If I have to drive, it's one of my genuine fears, and it's not something I really talk about with people because they look at me like, well, it's not a big deal. Like, everybody drives. There's 13-year-olds in Ohio driving tractors. I don't know, I'm making stuff up. But I feel like it's just one of those fears that I think is a little ridiculous, and it's not something that comes up every time I'm driving, obviously, but it does come up every now and then. And I really wish that I had paid attention to my fear of driving a little bit more before coming to a place where that is the main mode of transportation. So that's something a little bit personal about me, but keep that in mind. If you come from a city or a place where you don't do a lot of driving, maybe you don't even have your license, the number one way of getting around here is car. It's by car. There's the bus system here. I mean, I don't know if you want to sit in a hot bus to go places, but I'm not trying to do that. Also, the people here just drive weird in general. There's weird driving rules. Like, they either drive like maniacs or they drive extremely slow. And there's no in between. So I feel like I'm the in between because I'm coming from New York, but Florida is one of those places where people come from all over the country and they move to Florida. So you have New York drivers here, you have LA drivers here, you have small town drivers here, and they all just congregate in South Florida, right? So when there's such a different mix of drivers, the road can get a little crazy. There are times where I'm driving the speed limit or a little bit above the speed limit, and a car will literally zoom past me. And it's like, dude, where are you going? I feel like y'all are just a little nuts down here when it comes to driving. I think it's the heat. I don't know what it is, but the next thing I wish I knew before moving to South Florida is to really pay attention to the neighborhood and where I'm moving to. So I really didn't have that much wiggle room with choosing where I wanted to live because I had a broken ankle at the time, and I was also working with a really extreme budget. I knew I wanted a 2-bedroom. So there was just, you know, some areas that I wasn't going to be able to afford and weren't going to be practical for me. Also, because I wasn't physically here looking for the apartments, I really had to rely on my sister's help, and she did a great job of looking up apartments for me. However, she also only looked in certain areas because she's from here, and, you know, she gave her opinion and only looked in certain areas. So due to that, I didn't really get a chance to come down here and see for myself, oh, what this neighborhood looks like, or what, and can be able to compare it. Does that make sense? So if you are planning on moving to Florida or anywhere in general, if you can go there and visit yourself, I highly suggest it, because it'll give you a chance to really figure out what neighborhood and what town or what city you want to live in, as opposed to just like looking at Google Maps and be like, oh, okay, they got my favorite gym there, I'm gonna move to that neighborhood. Like, just kind of do a little bit more research, and if you can visit, I would definitely suggest it. I didn't know I was gonna end up loving the beach so much, but guess what? I live nowhere close to the beach. I live on the opposite end. So that's something that I wish I knew, but I mean, I couldn't have changed it because I couldn't afford to live by the beach anyway, but that's besides the point. The thing I wish I knew is that things are going to be a drive. It's a good 30-minute drive anywhere I want to go. If I find a good restaurant in Instagram, I look it up, it's always 30 minutes. It's like, it doesn't matter what it is, it's always a good 30-minute drive for me. And so I tend to stay really local and only go further out on like a weekend or a special occasion. And I'm not used to that lifestyle at all. Like with New York City, time is just weirdly different in New York City. Like I don't mind sitting 30 minutes on the subway to go into Manhattan. It's so much different. It's the same, but it's a different lifestyle, it's a different perspective. Okay, now this point, okay, if y'all are a Florida native, don't get offended, don't come for me in the comments. I'm just being honest from an outside perspective, and y'all probably know where I'm going with this. Y'all are crazy, y'all are weird, y'all do some weird things, and I just don't get it. From a New Yorker to say that Florida is weird, that says a lot, because I see a lot of weird stuff in New York, but here it's just weird, and it's a different kind of weird. It's a different kind of strange. People are odd, and you know, the fashion is definitely interesting. Just a lot of strange, odd characters here, and it's just the norm. That ties into the way that Florida handles things. The pandemic like almost didn't exist here, it seems like. I remember at the start of the pandemic, I had came to Florida to visit family for a holiday, I think. And that was at the beginning where everybody's wearing masks, nobody wants to travel. Nobody was wearing masks here. Nobody cared. It was like the pandemic didn't exist, and literally Florida feels like an alternate universe. I don't know how else to explain it. And you don't really realize it until you live here and you've witnessed these things every day. Just weird stuff happens here. It's not a necessarily bad thing, but it's just like, okay, when you see those news articles about the Florida man, it's real. Like the Florida man is around and he's just the average man here. It's so strange, but that is just something that I wasn't really prepared for, and I'm slowly, I don't think I'll ever get used to it, but I'm slowly adapting to it in some sort of way. So despite the really weird people here, I have been able to find a really great church community of like-minded individuals, and I go to a really awesome church. There's a lot of singing and dancing and praise and worship, and the preachers are great. Now that I'm working on my spiritual journey, I decided to get this beautiful Ana Luisa necklace that is just a cross, and I love this. I haven't taken it off since I've gotten it. I got this piece as well. It's butterfly earrings from them, and I really just like it because not only does it go with everything, but it's just so cute and simple. And they're actually having a sale right now. I'm gonna put their link in the description to their Instagram and their website. Go ahead and check them out. You will definitely find something that you like. For me, I love gold, so it just looks good on my skin tone. It matches all the outfits that I have. It works really well with a lot of different things, and I love this necklace. It just reminds me of how much my faith means to me. And again, the earrings also are just really great because they go with everything. Please check out Ana Luisa. They are just so kind to have sent this to me. They're just so versatile, delicate, and simple, and they're really inexpensive as well. If you want really good quality gold jewelry, Ana Luisa is the way to go. Thank you again so much for sending these pieces to me. I adore them. So go ahead and check them out. The link is in the description below. To wrap this video up, the last thing I wish I knew before moving here is how much I was going to love it. Aww. I love living here, and I can't express that enough. The weather is amazing. I mean, sometimes it's a little bipolar and there'll be like random rain during the day, but for the most part, I'm waking up to sunshine every day, and that has done so many tremendous things for my mental health. I deal with a lot of seasonal depression, so the fact that it's always, you know, a consistent good weather for the most part has done a lot for me, a lot of good for me. I really love going to the beach. I know I mentioned that already, but I never knew how much of a connection I have with just being in the water and just feeling free. It's a really, really great thing for me. I never really did that in New York because the beaches in New York kind of suck. Being able to afford my own apartment, I never would be able to do that at the time in New York City on the salary that I was making. And to be an entrepreneur and have a 2-bedroom and live my life here comfortably means so much to me. I want to leave you guys with this last note. If you want to move somewhere and you're afraid, just do it. I'm telling you, it can change your life. You can always move back home. You can always move back to your hometown. You can always reverse whatever you do. I really highly recommend you guys to find a place that suits you. I'm able to focus on my business without having to worry about putting on 3 layers of clothes, a jacket, shoes, double socks, gloves, a scarf, a hat. I don't have to do none of that. The weather is just so beautiful all the time. And I never realized how much I hated that process of dealing with winter until I came here and I didn't have to deal with it. But yes, that is all the things that I wish I knew before moving to South Florida. If you were thinking of moving here, just do it. I recommend it 10 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm gods, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.